let's go ahead and talk about this Veer action that the Suns went to a handful of times in last night's win over the Charlotte Hornets. So essentially what Veer action is whenever the screener sets a pick on ball, instead of rolling or popping, they immediately go and set a screen off ball for usually a shooter to come off of, either to play 2-on-1 from that area of the floor that the screen is set at, or just to create like an isolation attempt or anything in terms of creating another advantage on top of what was created from the initial pick. And the key to Veer action is when teams are deploying defensive coverages and pick and roll that are aggressive. So for the Charlotte Hornets last night, and customarily, they were putting a lot of pressure on actions going towards the outer thirds of the floor from the Suns. And in that, having DeAndre Ayton, instead of having him sit in the pocket to try to wait for a short roll pass and put him in playmaking situations, or for him to get into the mid-range like he did against the Milwaukee Bucks on Sunday with great frequency, they decided to deploy him as a weapon in the screening game. And that's essentially what they got into for, like I said, a handful of reps. So we're going to go ahead and zoom in on 4 of those from last night's win. So let's go ahead and look at this first one here. So we're going to see Chris coming off of the pick. And the other key thing about what they were doing with their Veer action last night is that they were sending Chris and campaign for 1 rep off of angle pick and roll. So instead of a traditional pick and roll going towards the middle of the floor, we're seeing Ayton screens enabling the guards to go towards the sideline or towards the outer thirds of the floor, making it an angle pick and roll. So we see the angle screen being set from DeAndre Ayton here, and we see his man up to touch and at the level of the screen, kind of with like a flat show. And they're going to take advantage of that specific defensive coverage by, as we let it flow through more, sending Ayton off to set another screen for a shooter. So that's going to be Durant Booker here exchanging with, I believe it's TJ Warren. As they turn the corner here, you see the exchange underneath the basket. That kind of mucks up the flow of the defense as well, the fact that they're pairing these actions all together in one play. And that's going to enable Booker a little bit of separation to then come off of the off-ball screen, being the Veer screen here from DeAndre Ayton. And you can see his man is sunk back into the paint now, and he's going to be out of position in terms of trying to help. But they're going to do a good job navigating the off-ball screen, the Veer screen from DeAndre Ayton. But Devin Booker is going to get into his bag here. He's going to turn over the other shoulder and just put up a nasty mid-range attempt and knock it down. This is just great action, great timing, great pace and cadence to it as well. There's no like hiccups or no snags within the actions that are going on with so many moving parts. And they just do a great job. The Hornets do a good job defending the Veer screen, but Devin Booker's counter to it is just too quick for them to recover. And he reads the coverage perfectly as he sees, again, Ayton's man Williams now in the middle of the paint. So instead of trying to continue over and flow into more help, he just rejects and goes off of the other side as you see him turn over the other shoulder. And now he's got just enough space to get in the midi, hits a little fade with it, and knocks it down. All right, this next rep here. Excuse this ad that they had going on in the play. Nonetheless, you can still see the same alignment being set up. This time it's going to be with Kevin Durant waiting for the middle pin down, the middle Veer screen in the middle third of the floor. So we got the angle screen from DeAndre Ayton for Chris Paul. We see DeAndre Ayton's man up at the level of the screen again, flat showing, flat hedging, whichever you like to say. And then as we see DeAndre Ayton, instead of rolling, or of course he never pops, but instead of rolling or popping, he goes to set the Veer screen. And as we can see it kind of coming together here as they zoom back in on the actual game instead, we see Kevin Durant catch here. I would have liked for him to just kind of continue with it because Ayton sets a much better Veer screen here on Gordon Hayward getting contact. And KD could kind of continue and just get into the midi pull up off of one dribble at that left elbow, as you can see here at the still frame. Nonetheless, we kind of see where KD kind of has like the little moment where he's just kind of thinking like, man, I either should have pulled up or I should have made the pass to the corner, which is where we're going to see Josh Okogie being wide open. So we get the Veer screen for KD. He kind of stops, gives a little jab to create a little bit more separation coming off. And he definitely could have just pulled this. Instead, he tried to pass it to Ayton. But the fact that, as we can see here, Josh Okogie's man was peeled in, help waiting off of him to kind of aid the roll, which is what's to be expected as we move forward. And he's going to have to knock down these shots. But nonetheless, you can kind of see in KD's reaction after the pass, like, man, I should have either shot that or I should have hit you in the corner of Okogie because he's wide open. And that's just kind of look, but you can see the advantages that the Veer action is creating within the half-court offense for the Suns. All right, this next right here, we see Campaign initiating here. We're going to see the angle screen. He's doing a good enough job getting to the spot that he needs to for it to get into the next part of the play. So Ayton doesn't even have to set a screen on his man. So he gets through, and then we go to the Veer part. You can see Williams in a little bit up to touch again on the at the level of the screen, and he kind of drops back as he sees that Ayton is not going to put any contact on the screen. He doesn't need to be there anymore. The ball's contained. So as they flow into the middle third and get into the Veer screen, we see Devin Booker coming off, and they do a good job again navigating, ducking under it to get through. But Devin Booker at this point was just really in his bag in terms of his flow as a scorer, and we just see a nasty turnaround for the and-one bucket. But look at the fundamentals with Book. So as he comes over on the catch, they flow right into the next action with no change of pace or cadence to the play coming off of the Veer screen. Immediately goes into a little bit of a rescreen, and then Book has the patience here to not go too quick. He's already in the spot on the floor that he's very proficient from, and then hits this nasty turnaround. You see the separation created with the shoulders and the elbow on the shoulder of the defender, and then he's able to fade and get into just a picture-perfect shot plus the foul. And then on this last play here, we're going to see, again, we got the angle with CP3. We see the level of the screen action from the Charlotte Hornets again on the outer third of the floor. Chris terminates his dribble. Ayton's setting up Veer screen now for Kevin Durant. You might be wondering how there's two defenders on KD if there's two defenders on CP3. Well, if we look over to the bottom third of the screen here, we see again this Josh Okogie being help pointed off of. And if you kind of zoom it back, you can see who was initially guarding him. And then we see how his man decides to just stick in the middle third of the floor to kind of muck up the pace and the flow and the look. But they still do a great job of getting the screen on DeAndre Ayton for Kevin Durant's man. And then he does a great job then flowing into just using his suddenness in the half court. So he just catches a little bit of a sweep as he assesses the defense, and then just a quick rip through, two dribble pull up to the midi, and he knocks that down. That was just a handful of the reps that we saw with the Suns being clever. So it's one thing to have all of these proficient scorers on the floor, but it's another thing to be able to go about it in a clever manner to open them up and get them to A, spots that they're proficient from, but B, also be able to do it in a manner to where it's a little bit easier for them to score rather than having to go one-on-one or go into a blase pick and roll consistently to where a defense can load up and expect what's to come from your attack. So this was just very clever from the Suns, and really fun to see them get into this more than they have at any point in this season, in this first game with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant in the lineup.